secretary call the roll.
Mark Judd. Brian Banger.
Here.
Michael Kurtz.
Here.
Rick Dean.
Here.
Julia Turner.
Here.
Greg Zimmerman.
Here.
Jim Finnegan.
Here.
Chris Carlton.
Here.
Mary Beth Taylor.
Here.
We have a quorum. This is a continuation of case SU 1711, and I'm going to have our council tell us where we're at.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you looking at me for the first time, my name is Samantha Wally. I'm an Assistant State's Attorney with the Civil Division of the McLean County State's Attorney's Office. As Chairman Finnegan indicated, we have reconvened the special use hearing. I believe this is our 5th or 6th hearing. They're all kind of starting to jumble together a little bit. We are currently in the public, not public comment, but the applicant has rested their case for the moment, and so members of the community are now speaking. You have the opportunity to speak if you are in favor of, against, or neutral with regard to the special use application. There is a sign-up sheet over there. We've just been going through the list. We started with sign-ups January 2nd, and we've been working our way forward to kind of let you know how things are going to go. Once we get to the end of the list, and that includes people signing up today, we're going to cycle back through one more time for anyone that we might have missed in case they were gone on when we called them on a particular day, but they're here today, tomorrow, whatever the case may be. If you are, with regard to testimony, experts, and you have to be qualified as an expert, are entitled to 30 minutes, and you'll see that handy dandy marker behind me. Everyone else gets 10 minutes. When the 10 minutes is up, the 10 minutes is up. It doesn't matter who you are, you just gotta wrap it up. Same for the expert, 30 minutes is 30 minutes. Any questions? Okay. Can you call the next individual that signed up?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just put my appearance in for the record.
You'll have to turn on that microphone right there.
Thank you. If I can figure it out.
There you go.
Sorry. Mr. Chairman, Philip Lutkehans, Gene has my spelling. For the record, I'd like to put my appearance in on behalf of certain objectors. I've handed out SLG Exhibit 1. I think Ms. Wally has handed it out to everybody, or will shortly.
I will once you begin to present any evidence.
Okay. I have 52 clients. As far as evidence, I would like to make a couple preliminary motions at this point. First of all, I would ask for leave to cross-examine Mr. Parzik and Mr. Hankard. I'm assuming Mr. Griffin is going to object. If he's not, I'll have another conversation, but I'd like to at least raise that at this point and figure out early on whether we're going to be given that opportunity.
Well, I think that this is something that we can take up once you've begun to make evidence. I think that that's something that Chairman Finnegan can mull over as the other individuals that have signed up as they testify.
Okay, I guess it's important to know, though, for us, I don't know if you're going to get to us this evening or not, but I think the sooner we understand that, and Mr. Griffin understands the answer to that, that you do agree that Mr. Hankard and Mr. Parzik should be brought back, that he has enough lead time to do that. So I know doesn't have Mr. Hankard here tonight. He and I talked today. He was not going to bring Mr. Hankard, and that's fine. I didn't ask him to tonight. But there are certain preliminary matters that I would like to get to at least this evening, so that if we are given the right to cross-examine Mr. Parzik and Mr. Hankard, we are sure that you're in the future. So I don't know where I am on the list, but I wanted to at least raise that.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure Phil has a list. It's his discretion to call through the list. We're going to go through the list of the names we have, and we're going to go back to people that weren't here for other meetings and give them a chance to come forward. And I think there was some that signed on tonight, so that's where we're at.
Kimberly Brucker.
you like to be sworn in?
Yes, please.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this case now and hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Would you,
Well, for just a second. Mr. Lukahans is, well, let me ask Ms. Brucker. Ms. Brucker, does Mr. Lukahans represent you?
Yes, I believe my name is on the list.
It is. So do you intend on having these witnesses testify, or are you going to participate in their testimony? No. Okay. Are you solely going to participate in terms of the cross-examination? Is that it?
I will participate in testimony of third parties, but my clients should have the right under the rules to testify for themselves, and they're taking it.
They do, and what I'm trying to avoid is two bites of the apple.
I am pretty sure that the specifics of my testimony will not be what people like Ms. Brucker are testifying about.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
would you state your name and address and spell your last name?
Kimberly Brucker, BRUCKER, 20662 North, 2900 East Road, Lexington, 61753.
Did you get it?
20662 North, 2900 East Road, Lexington.
Thank you. Go ahead.
First of all, thank you for giving us all the opportunity to speak. I did not anticipate speaking, but I was told that that was the only way that I would be able to get my point across to the ZBA. Fortunately for you guys, I've had 2 weeks to prepare my lengthy letter. So, I know my opinion is not necessarily going to change how you vote, but because I'm going to be living near this, I wanted to at least make you aware of how I feel about it. I missed the first 2 informational meetings at Heartland because I was sick, but I sat through the last 2 here. Very informative as well as very emotional testimony. I live very close to Mr. Pitzer and Mr. Hill, and I heard them speak and discuss about the wildlife. I couldn't help but choke back tears listening to Miss Metz speak about raising her family on her homestead and now being ready to pass it on to another family to build their own memories, yet concerned that selling it is going to be a struggle for her if the wind turbines are approved. Anyone that knows me knows that I tell my children, when it's time to bury me behind the barn. I never want to have to leave my home. It means too much to me. The thought of being driven away is beyond upsetting. I listen to Miss Emberton and feel so similar to her. I did appreciate her bringing up the fact that Bloomington normal residents are not even allowed to have backyard chickens, as it will disrupt their neighbors. Somewhere I read that the argument for that was that it would be a potential nuisance and an infringement on the property rights of the neighbors. Clearly, I would have to agree with that on the windmills for us. Today I'm here with the heaviest of hearts. I've struggled with what this means to myself and my family since hearing of the windmill news just a few weeks ago. Blindsided by the news would be a better description in all honesty. We were not included in any mailings. I heard about all of this secondhand. All while our neighbors were under contract, had known about it for months, and signed their papers to move forward with allowing windmills to be placed on their land for their financial gain. Their land, yet so near our home that will no doubt be affected. When my husband and I bought our land 13 years ago in hopes of raising our family in a beautiful, safe, rural setting, never in my wildest dreams did I believe we would feel like all of that would be compromised for someone else's financial advancement. I, of course, have my concerns, many which I've been told that Invenergy will dispute, but I'd like to be able to at least share them with you. The somewhat obvious ones would be the noise and visual disturbance. Will we be able to hear them or be disturbed by their shadows and flickering? Unfortunately, we will not know until they're up and it's too late. Will there be damage to our roads, the roads that our taxes are used to pay for? Maybe, maybe not. I've spoken to road commissioners and they've given me a bit of insight. Our roads will be torn up for no less than 3 years, and they will never be the same sturdy roads in my lifetime. Roads will be graveled and some will be closed from time to time. Will this cause a decrease to my property value? I've been assured it won't, but I don't believe that's a fair or true assurance. I'd be curious to know if we took a survey of how many people would actually choose to move near windmills or how many people would not. The number that would not would be the majority. McLean County is supposed to have some of the best soil in the world. I don't understand why land is being taken out of production. We're to be feeding the world with food, not electricity. How can this logically make any sense? For 13 years now, living along the Mackinac River, we've been able to see some of the most amazing wildlife. I find it incredibly disturbing that we'll more than likely be affected. Just this last Saturday, my son saw a bald eagle fly over the house while out doing chores. I know that might not matter to some people, but it's not something that people see every day, and some people won't even see it in their lifetime. I'm 46 years old, and just this summer, he and I were out walking. As we walked back up our drive, we noticed two birds flying overhead doing some sort of dance. He said, "Mom, stand still, those are two bald eagles." I had no idea. Again, I'm 46 years old, and we've never seen bald eagles that I knew of. This was a moment I'll never forget. The opportunity for my son to point out something to me and tell me what he knew about them was somewhat priceless. I've also heard Mr. Scott Schurz speak on January 10th. You see, my property and my home butt up to his aerial service. I am literally just north of him. My home is in the direct path when he lands on his strip. I assumed this would affect his business. However, when he brought up two specific wind turbines that would cause his landing to be a safety issue, I was alarmed. Again, given the fact that he flies directly over my home to land his plane, and now having two obstacles in his way is a serious concern for me. That being said, my biggest issue, because I am a mother and I'm always most concerned about my family's well-being, is the potential health and safety risks. I know there are conflicting opinions about this, but it troubles me that my neighbors are willing to take the risk and possibly put my family at risk. Again, we won't know what the repercussions will be until they're up and it's too late. I've laid awake at night worrying about the future. It's caused me anxiety when I think about the project and the outcome. To people in this business of making money, I imagine they cannot understand where I'm coming from. I was grateful to hear at the last ZBA meeting that no decisions are based on money, because at this point, money is the absolute only positive argument that I've heard in favor of the windmills. What I'm asking is that you consider how you'll vote on this project. Please consider the aspects of just people's financial gain. Is it right for one person's financial gain to possibly cost another person financial loss? Is it right for people to cause others such stress and anxiety and potential long-term health issues, all in the name of them financially benefiting? I do understand a person should be allowed to do with what they see fit on their land, but at what point do they consider how that affects their neighbors? My children started their own business of raising beef cattle when they were in grade school and junior high. My husband and I thought this would be a wonderful opportunity for them. They are now 19 and 16 years old and still going strong at it. A couple of Christmases ago, they kept a quarter of a beef and shared it with a few neighbors that they felt might be inconvenienced because of the smell their cattle produce and the noise the calves make when they're weaning them, falling around the clock. The beef was beef that they could have sold to pay down their debt, but what seemed more important was to consider the people that live near us and be grateful they tolerated some of the nuisances that do come with living in the country. Life is short and you can't take your money with you, so they say. I was proud of my kids for grasping that being neighborly and treating people respectfully was more important than the extra money for them. I would have to say one thing I don't understand is the people that have contracts on these windmills on their land, why are they not here presenting their case? It seems that we're the people that are not so interested in it, but I haven't heard from any of them yet. All of that being said, it makes me wonder what message we're sending to our children. In a world where we often wonder why our children are not becoming the considerate adults that we hope for, what example are we setting for them? From where I stand, we're teaching them to put ourselves first. Financial gain for ourselves is much more important than considering our neighbors' well-being and best interest. These are not lessons that I'm hoping to instill in my children. I appreciate very much your time and consideration of what I have to say.
Questions on the board? Questions of staff? Would anyone in the audience have questions for this witness? Okay, thanks for coming.
Theodore Harkey.
problem here. This gentleman has a question. Yes, I did. Yes. Maybe you should skip me while this gentleman loads up on presentation. He had it 2 meetings ago.
We got a new laptop, our laptop.
Oh, they have a new computer.
That's fine.
Skip me for a minute, please.
Sure.
It's okay.
He wants time to set it up.
Julie Hall Cotter.
I have already given testimony. I could defer to Mr. Liskins if there's anything he wants to say.
No, if you've given testimony, it's my mistake. Renee Taylor. Devin Chisan. At 1204 South Linden Street, Normal. Elizabeth Cave at 17 Clinton Place, Normal. Joe Birchie. I'll pass it this time. This might be your only chance.
Did we swear you in the other night?
No.
Okay. You like you sworn in. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this case now and here can be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Pull that a little closer to you, and it's caught on the, yeah, just lean into it. Would you state your name and address and spell your last name?
Joe Birchie, B-E-R-T-S-C-H-E, 27651 East 2700 North Road, Chinola. The farm I'm on will have one turbine, will be 1,500 feet from my house, 1,540 feet from my house. I will also, the farm will also host a substation and a switch yard to the south end of the 80. So I've lived there since 1971 and farmed it since that time. And I've dealt with, past 10 years, 3 different wind companies. One used to be Horizon, on EDPR now. We signed with Energy about 2 years ago. We've been well treated, never had any big hassles with them or anything. And I don't anticipate really any major problems with them. The switch yard will be lit up at night, year round, like any other substation is in the area. I don't really anticipate any problems with the windmills. I've lived with all kinds of things in my life. I'd like to bring up one thing. I think we're a little spoiled here in the United States. Back in '68 and '9, I served in the Army. And I had to go out on bivouac. And I had to pull guard duty the first morning. And no sooner than the sun came up, it was a cold, crisp October day. And this mama son comes out of her little hooch. And she starts beating, or doing her wash, beating it on a rock by a stream. In the afternoon, her and her husband came out, and they started making brick. how fortunate we are here in the United States that we can flip a switch. Also in the Army, the United States was known amongst the GIs as the land of the all-night generator. Because our lights would go out in the middle of the night, and you had to put on all your gear, and you had to go out on the post where you were designated to be in case of an invasion. Because electricity was on and off, this and that. It wasn't reliable like it is here in the United States. And I think the people just don't realize we have so much. And now we have a company coming in here that's going to spend $300 million to produce electricity. I see on these farm programs every morning, like, they'll be out there shooting a scene in a field or something. And in the background, I see 1, 2, 3 windmills. We are a nation now, the farmers in this area, in central Illinois and all over the Midwest, we're going to be producing corn, beans, and electricity. It's an option open to us. It's one of the things we're going to have to get used to. I just feel like we just don't realize what we have, and I'm grateful for it. You know what? We have plenty of food, we have plenty of electricity, we have just about everything. And sometimes I wonder if we're really grateful for it. And that's all I have to say. Thank you. Thank you for my comments to you.
Thank you. Does the board have questions? So this is going to be on your farm that you own?
Yes.
And
I've been there 41 years. The farm's been in the family for 131 years. I've farmed it the longest of anybody since 1853.
and you live on the farm?
I live on the farm. I'll be 1,540 feet from the turbine. And I appreciate Energy coming in and giving us a helping hand, because it will make a difference. It will be a game changer for some of us landlords or the hosts of turbines. It will be a game changer. It'll be important to the county.
Is anyone in your family going to continue on the farming on the farm after you're retired?
No, but they will hold it dearly.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, you mentioned it's going to be a game changer. How is it going to be a game changer? How would you describe that?
Well, with the price of crops right now, we're almost at break-even point. And if you have this income extra, it's going to be whether some farmers, it's going to be whether they stay in business or not, or
Would staff have questions?
How do you see a wind turbine as compatible with your farming operation?
one, I farm around 3 Con Ed towers right now, and I have them my whole farming career. They're a lot harder to get around than this. This will provide an access road. I can take corn and beans off the field much easier. I really see no, for the amount of time or amount of effort, I see it as be convenient for me to take have that access road in there. Plus, I'm going to have the switch station, you might say, or it's not really going to bother me to farm around it. I mean, farming around those Con Ed towers when they're sitting in their cattywampus on a square 80 is not the easiest thing to farm around. I'm not farmed around. I've never gotten paid for farming around them. At least I'll get paid to farm around the wind. It'll be a big enough area that it's not going to really bother me.
Do you think it takes up a lot of good farm ground?
With the surpluses we have, we need to get rid of some of the good farm ground. Well, I shouldn't say that. We have over 1 billion bushel in excess. And the good farmland, it's gonna take out about the turbine's gonna take out about an acre, maybe.
Thank you.
Would anyone in the audience have questions of this witness? Come forward.
I would just like to know, okay.
You gotta come forward. Gonna have to take a chair, sit down in the chair and give us your name and address.
Yes, my name is John Adams.
Push that button, the other side. That's it.
My name is John Adams from Lexington, Illinois. We're on Road 2225 East Road, not too far from Clarksville. At any rate, I was just wondering what the financial obligations are as far as you getting paid for your wind turbine and your substation.
Well, that's confidential at this time.
So you have signed a disclosure act saying you will not disclose any monetary gains?
Yes.
Okay. That's my primary question. Just wondering if anyone else might know about the value of a turbine to a farmer.
I can't answer that question, so why don't you, if that's all you had.
That's all I had, just wondered about the disclosure agreement.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else come forward? Same routine.
Okay.
Name or your name and address.
All right.
Was it right?
That's it. You just take your finger off of it.
Dave Duzan, 24-322 North, 2250 East Road, Lexington. Joe?
I believe this gentleman's represented by Mr. Lucan. Mr. Lucan should conduct.
You mean to tell me you've been farming for 41 years, and the only way that you can make it on family ground that's more than likely owned is to have a substation and a wind turbine on your property? And you can't tell me that we've not faced low commodity prices before?
I'll agree, we have faced low prices before.
I would ask, I believe this gentleman is represented by Mr. Lucas, so I don't think he has any right to cross-examine the witnesses.
I think he does. I'm not cross-examining. I'm waiting. Why can't he cross-examine the witness?
1 minute at a time, one person at a time. Are you going to cross-examine?
No.
Okay. If Mr. Lucan is not.
Somebody has to turn the button on.
Yeah, please.
In answer to your question, Mr. Griffin, I understand what you're trying to say. If Mr. Lucan is not going to cross-examine the witness, I'll allow Mr. Duzan?
Duzan, yes.
Duzan, the opportunity, but again, like I said, there will be no 2 bites of the apple. Before you continue, and you can cross-examine Mr. Birchie, can you spell your first and last name for the court reporter?
David, D-A-V-I-D, Duzan, D-U-Z-A-N.
Thank you, sir.
Can you give your address again?
24-322 North, 2250 East Road, Lexington, Money Creek Township.
You may have to repeat your question for Mr. Birchie since we interrupted you.
Joe, did you hear me the first time?
Yes. Yes. We've had these low prices before, and I came through since '71, very low prices. I don't really farm that much. I only have, right now I only farm 320 acres. I'm semi-retired, but there's no doubt in my mind I'm gonna make it. There's no problem there. I'm worried about some of the bigger farmers that are doing a lot of cash renting. A lot of them I hear are in the world of hurt, so if they had a windmill, why, it might help them out, or their landlord. A lot of this thing is the landlords can take a lot of that money and improve their tiling system. And if they take an acre out of production for the windmill, they can do enough tiling to make up the bushels 2 or 3 times over.
So it's really about financial gain to make farm improvements or to retire on?
Probably both,
Okay.
to a certain extent.
How many acres do you think will be taken out of production by the wind turbine and the substation?
Probably an acre of turbines, so you're talking 100 acres there, and it'll be roughly 10 to 15 acres on the substation.
So about 16 acres altogether, roughly?
Approximately, yes.
Do you really think that's gonna help us with the corn surplus in this country?
Not really, I mean, the corn surpluses.
And why did you say it?
Well, we do have a lot of surplus. The trouble is, the surplus is all coming from the outlying areas, poor ground and all this and that, so, but,
Again, do you think this will help decrease the surplus of corn and soybeans in this country?
that's just hard to say. I really couldn't tell you whether it will or not, but
A
it
yes
will.
or no?
It probably won't, decrease it.
So Joe, it's really about financial gain.
To a certain extent, yes.
To 100%.
Not
We're gonna have friendly stuff
Okay.
going on here, okay?
Okay.
Push the button if you're done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question of this witness? Name and address.
Julie Cotter, 23571 North 2900 East Road, Lexington. Mr. Burchie, would you have considered having these on your farm had they not offered you a lot of money for them? You seem very passionate that we are all too spoiled here, but would you have let them do this to contribute to the electricity in our country had you not gotten a lot of money for them?
Ms. Cotter, you have to ask one question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, we signed up with the other ones and they weren't paying near what Energy is paying for this because the windmills weren't near as big at that time. But we signed on with the other company, I think it was 2008 or whatever it was, and they didn't pay near because they were smaller turbines. But I think we got it with all the coal generator systems are going to switch over to gas, or they're going obsolete, they're not replacing them. I think we have a product that we can sell indirectly through Invenergy, a resource that we can sell just like corn and beans, and export it out of here just like we do with corn and beans, and it can become a cash income for us.
Would you have considered putting a turbine there for the good of everyone else had you not made a lot of money on it?
Yes, I think I would. I mean, because we signed on with the other company for a lot less money.
But that was quite a few years ago,
Not that, well, it was 2008 or 10.
11 years, or 9 years.
Yeah, see, they didn't go through with their deal.
Do you live in your house 365 days a year?
Yes, I do.
Okay. That's all I have.
Anyone else want to ask a question of this witness? Need your name and address.
Katie Adams, 322 West Main, Lexington, Illinois. And my quick question is, you said it's near your foundation by just over 1,500 feet. How close is your nearest neighbor?
Clearest neighbor be at least 3/4 of a mile away.
Would you have made the decision to put the turbine on your property all the way on the edge, only 1,500 feet from your neighbor's house?
The rules are they have to be 1,500 feet away from any occupant.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, you're saying that yours are closer to your house than your neighbor.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Not everyone's is in the same situation. Some people might have 500 acres. Their house might be all the way to the east, and some are choosing or having their turbines all the way on the west edge, knowing their neighbor's house is right there. As a good neighbor, would you have chosen to have a turbine 500 acres away from your house, but still on your property, but on the edge so that it would affect your neighbor?
Well, as a landowner or a host of it, I don't determine where it's going to be. It's determined by the energy, how far away from it has to be 1,500 feet away from any house.
Okay, so they determined that.
They determined that.
If you would have determined.
Well, they not only determined, that's the zoning board rules.
No, I interrupt you. I mean, as far as on your property, if you would have been given the choice, would you have done that to your neighbor and put it just over 1,500 feet from their house?
Miss Adams, you are allowed to cross-examine the witness about things that they testified to. So
Okay, well, he was just saying about the 1,500, so I'm just saying, like, he had said about, I guess, the heritage factor of the property and handing it down and being neighborly and all this. I just wanted to verify that he is getting the money from the turbine and it's near his house.
Well, and
but if it was fair to put it next to somebody else's while he's getting the money.
And I think he's testified to all of that. If you'd like to offer an opinion about that, about the placement of the turbines when it's your opportunity, you're more than welcome to do so.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay?
Any other questions? Come forward.
My name is Matt Janes, 209 West Willow, Normal.
Can you spell your last name?
Jan as in November, ES. Like you, I serve my country, and to your point, every man is his land, correct?
Correct.
So the questions that everyone else was asking you were pertaining to your business.
Correct.
So would you say that to better your business and to better your livelihood, this is going to help?
Oh, definitely.
Because the purpose of a business is to maximize profit and pay taxes, correct?
Correct.
And this will only help your business and your livelihood?
Correct.
I have no further questions.
Push that button right there before you leave, would you? Thank you. Hang on just a second. I guess go ahead.
My name is Ted Hartke, Hartke. My address, 117 South East Avenue, Ogden, Illinois, 61859.
Before Mr. Hardy starts, I would object to him asking any cross-examination questions. He's got no standing to be here in these proceedings. He doesn't live in the county, and this is just not an open forum for people that live in the state of Illinois to stop by and ask questions. So he has no standing to ask questions. I ask that he, unless he can establish some standing, that he not be permitted to ask questions. Thank you.
Where do you live?
As long as you're just gonna ask questions, we're gonna let you do that.
Okay.
Just questions, okay?
Sure. I'm sorry, I didn't catch what your name was.
Joe.
Joe. First off, Joe, thank you for your service to our country. And can you tell us where you were when you saw the woman come out of her hut? Was that in Vietnam?
It was in Korea.
It was in Korea. When you went and served our country, did you go there to help us preserve our rights as Americans for an American cause, for our citizens here?
I was drafted and I was sworn in, I stepped forward.
Thank you.
Yes, I did.
When you did your work there for us on our behalf, did you felt the duty to your country to do that? Is that right?
I was drafted. We don't have that anymore, sir.
When you said that we need to appreciate what we have here and that we're very spoiled, do you think that all of the neighbors who are near wind turbines, who are not paid, who are not part of the project, do you think that it is fair for them to lose the use of their home if the wind turbines turn out to be noisier than what Invenergy says they are?
The trouble is now you move to the country, if you live within 7 or 8 miles of a high line or whatever you call it, line, there are pretty good chances you're going to get, somebody's going to try to figure out how to put a wind farm there. And I think it's the coming thing. If you move out to the country, you got to take the bitter with the sweet. Who's to say that somebody's not going to put a pasture hog farm right across the road from you? And I've been there and done that, and it doesn't smell good, and it's 365 days a year. They're not all confinement setups. You take that chance. As a young man or boy growing up, I lived in a house that was 150 feet away from a cattle lot. And your eyes burned when you stepped onto the place. You take that chance when you move out the country. It's all not sweet smelling and roses out there. You take the bitter with the sweet, and you have to accept what can happen out there. Pipeline can come through, transmission line can come through, a windmill farm can come through. You take your chances.
I understand. If the wind turbine is constructed and a family is severely sleep deprived and they lose the use of their home,
Mr. Harkey.
Is that part of taking the good with the bad?
Mr. Harkey, you have to limit your questions to what he testified to. He did not, hold on. He did not testify to anything about what would happen to anyone else. He testified to what was happening on his land, okay?
Sure, that's fair enough. I don't think I have any more questions, though that would be an interesting thing for you to tell us what your feeling about that was.
Questions? Comments?
Thank you. More comments. Any more questions? Anyone else in the audience have questions? Come forward. And no, you didn't know you signed up for all that, did you?
Nope. Like I said, I was drafted.
Would you state your name and address for the record?
Ryan Worthley.
Better spell your last name too.
Ryan Worthley, WORTHLEY, 319 Southfell Avenue. Southfell. Are you sick of hearing from Ted Harkey?
If that's what's going to go, we're not.
No more questions.
Thank you. Any other questions? You gotta come forward.
A procedural question?
We gotta have, it's gotta be on the record, so you gotta speak into the microphone.
I just have Thank you. I was drafted too.
I
I have a procedural
I think
question.
we still need your name and
Oh,
address.
I'm sorry, my name is Dave Kolsinski. I live at 132 Hilton Drive in Lexington, Illinois,
We're gonna have to get you to spell that last name.
just like it sounds.
I can't spell it, so.
Glacinski. My wife and I live at 132 Hilton Drive, Lexington, Illinois.
Okay, after all that, now you can ask your question.
Okay. If you think my name is bad, you should hear my friends' names. Okay. I just have a procedural question. On page 3 of your handout, third from the bottom, it says friendly cross-examination is not permitted. Okay? And aren't we kind of grilling this guy here?
Yeah, friendly cross-examination, another word for that is bolstering. So what friendly cross-examination refers to is, let's say I agreed with Mr. Birchie and I asked him questions to further along what he had to say. That's referred to as friendly cross-examination. That's not what we want. We want people to be able to cross-examine and ask questions, to challenge the testimony of any individual. Friendly cross-examinations is kind of meant to further statements, which you can do that, but not during cross-examination. You do it during your own testimony period. Does that make sense?
I suppose if you're a lawyer, it does. Which I'm not. I just kind of feel like he's trying to make his position known, and he's being grilled from all kinds of people. All right, doesn't quite seem fair.
And and I can tell you that's part of our open hearing. That's part of due process. Is everyone has an opportunity to speak, but everyone also has an opportunity to challenge that and to ask questions and to make sure that the board has the most accurate, truthful, honest information before they make a decision.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? I think you're all to
Okay,
push
thank
that
you.
button. Push that button.
Thank you for letting me
coming
speak
up.
to you.
Thank you for your patience.
Mr. Harkey, are you ready?
If our computer's ready, I'm ready. I have a full copy of my presentation here, and I have some special select pages that are more important as a handout to distribute.
Can you, hold on just a second. Can you sit down with the microphone on?
I think we're gonna swear you in, if that's okay.
Okay.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you should give in this case and on hearing be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
So help me God, I do.
Okay.
You gotta state your name and address for the record.
My name is Theodore Philip Hartke. Address is 117 South East Avenue, Ogden, Illinois 61859.
She didn't talk.
All right. Mr. Hartke, I know you said you have a couple exhibits. My understanding is that you wanted to be qualified as an expert, is that correct? Okay. I am going to ask you a series of questions, and then it is ultimately up to Chairman Finnegan whether or not you are qualified. And all that means is with regard to how long you're allowed to speak and
I understand.
And that sort of thing, okay? And then we can get to your, once that determination is made, we can get to your handouts if that's all right. Okay. All right, you stated your name. Can you tell me where you work?
I'm the president of Harkey Engineering and Surveying Incorporated.
And how long have you held that position?
I started my business in 2011.
And what are your duties at that place of employment?
I'm the president and I oversee all of the construction layout, boundary surveying, engineering projects for all of my staff.
Okay. How many people work for you?
I have 9 employees.
Full-time or part-time?
All full-time.
All right, where did you attend school, Mr. Harkey?
I attended Southern Illinois University at Carbondale.
And what's your highest degree of education?
I have a bachelor's in science in civil engineering with land surveying specialization.
And when did you obtain that?
I graduated in May of 1999.
Have you given any lectures in that capacity?
Yes.
How many?
Probably half a dozen.
And I'm differentiating between testimony, lecturing.
I would lecture as in class lecturing.
A forum, any sort of conference, that sort of thing.
Okay, I've given a presentation at the Illinois Land Surveyors Association conference.
Okay, so would that be your sole lecture?
Yes.
Okay, and when was that?
I think that was in the beginning of 2013, February 2013.
Are you a member of any professional associations?
Yes, I'm a member of the Illinois Society of Professional Engineers, the Illinois Land Surveyors Association, American Congress Surveying and Mapping, Indiana Land Surveyors Association. Those are the major ones. I have some other minor ones, but they are insignificant.
Okay. And how long have you been a part of those professional associations?
Approximately 20 years, for the longest of one of them.
Okay, so since you graduated?
Even before I graduated.
Okay. Alrighty, have you received any honors or awards in your field?
I got the 2012 Young Surveyor of the Year Award from the Illinois Professional Land Surveyors Association. I served on their board of directors and went all the way through the ranks. I'm also a past president of the Illinois Surveyors Association.
Okay. And just so I understand, your company is a surveying company, correct?
It's an engineering and surveying company.
And that would be as a civil engineer, correct?
I'm a civil engineer and licensed surveyor, both.
Okay.
For, if it matters any, for a while I also had an engineering license in the state of Georgia. Okay. But it was only for one project.
Okay, and you do not currently maintain that?
I do not maintain my Georgia license.
Okay. And do you specialize in any particular fields?
We do a lot of construction layout for buildings and structures and bridges and road work. We do land development such as subdivisions, strip malls, a Taco Bell or two. I wasn't prepared for this kind of an interview, but we do a lot of land development, construction type work, and also boundary surveys.
Okay. What specific training have you had in the area of your specialty?
In my specialty, which would be surveying, I have 27 hours of undergraduate work that was required to get my surveyor's license.
Anything more recent than your undergraduate work?
No. Besides continuing education for license maintenance, that's all.
Okay. Do you have any publications or research?
No.
And you indicated that you have a license, you're a licensed surveyor and you are a licensed civil engineer?
Yes.
Do you hold any additional licensing?
With my engineering firm, my company also holds a Illinois Professional Design Firm registration.
You have to tell me what that is.
A design firm registration is if you incorporate your company, you need to have a design firm registration. If you are not incorporated and you're a sole proprietor, you do not need to get your company registered as a licensed design firm.
Okay, so this design firm registration has to do with the makeup of your company?
Yes.
Understand. Do you have any board certifications?
No.
Please list your previous places of employment, including each position.
My most recent employment was at both Infrastructure and Environment, LLC. That was in Champaign, Illinois. My position there was lead surveyor. Before that, it was.
When did you leave FOTH?
I quit my job at FOTH in April of 2011. Prior to FOTH, that company was called Daly and Associates Engineers. And for them, that was pretty much my first job out of college, my first long-time job out of college. And for them, I went from survey technician all the way up to licensed land surveyor in those 5 years. I was one of the 85 shareholders of Daly and Associates before they sold out to Foth Engineering.
So you just said 6 years, so if I'm doing my math right, it's from 2011 to 2005.
2005 to 2011, that would cover the time period when I worked at Foth, and from 2000 until 2005, that's the time period I would have been at Daly and Associates Engineers.
Okay.
Prior to that, I worked in Marion, Illinois, at a company called Clarida Engineering Company. I worked there.
Can you spell that for me?
Clarida is spelled C-L-A-R-I-D-A.
And what was the time period that you worked there?
I started there in probably 1998 and moved to Champaign in 2000, so from 1998 to 2000.
And I interrupted you. What did you do at Clarida?
I was a staff surveyor.
What type of scientific or technical studies have you conducted?
None.
Has your work been peer reviewed?
As a surveyor, our work is always peer reviewed since it's, we present our surveys and plats to zoning boards and things of that nature. So
I'm sorry, let me clarify. Have any studies you would have conducted been peer reviewed?
I have not done studies.
Okay, so that's a no. Did you prepare a report for this case?
I prepared, I suppose you could qualify this as a report.
Okay, so you had your PowerPoint presentation.
I prepared a specific presentation specific to this project.
Explain the materials that you reviewed, and not necessarily content, but the materials that you reviewed in creating that.
I reviewed my correspondence with Invenergy, my interactions, correspondence with acousticians.
With what? I'm sorry.
Acousticians, noise engineers.
Okay.
I went through all of my wife and I's notes from when we were having issues with the wind farm.
Okay.
It's a rather, we could be here a long time talking about what I have put together to compile something to get it done in a short time frame.
Well, and I understand, and I'm not trying to delay your testimony. I just want to make sure that if you want to be qualified as an expert, I want to make sure the proper foundation has been laid.
I understand.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand what you told me, that the materials you reviewed in creating your PowerPoint presentation were correspondence and personal notes. Is that correct?
I also reviewed some Invenergy's previous testimonies at my accounting board, audio and video. I could provide a reference to each item that I have in my presentation if you want that level of detail.
Well, is there more than what you provided?
I did not include reference material with my with each slide.
Well, and I guess that's what I'm asking. Did you consult periodicals? Did you consult any journals? Did you speak with any acousticians, or are you relying on paper documents that were in your possession? That's all I'm trying to discern.
99.9% of all this information has to do with what happened to me and my family personally in the wind farm.
And I understand it. And like I said, I'm not trying to get into the content. I'm just trying to get to what you rely on. So, and I guess what I'm trying to explain is, did you rely on Wikipedia? Did you rely on personal? Well, and I'm just saying, did you rely on internet sources, personal experience, that sort of thing?
I believe that everything in my packet is all things that pertain to my personal family information, or items that have been directly correspondence between my family, acousticians, my county board, and items have been sent to me directly.
Okay.
I don't think I have anything here that could pop out as internet science or.
And I'm not accusing you of that, I'm just trying to make sure I understand what you relied upon.
Okay.
After you completed your report, did you arrive at a particular conclusion?
We've done, we have submitted summaries of what happened to my family as a conclusion in a 2 or 3 page document in the past for testimony to submit to ZBAs or to court cases.
Okay, so you believe that you have a conclusion to provide, an expert conclusion to provide to the
Oh,
board
I
today?
definitely do.
Okay. Describe the scientific or technical principles or methods that you use to come to this conclusion.
My conclusion is based upon us living in a home immediately near wind turbines.
Okay, and I don't want to get into the content of it, and like I
Okay.
said, you have every opportunity to describe in great detail what you want to present. I'm asking about scientific or technical principles. So,
No.
Okay, so no raw data or anything of that nature.
If you include my text message to a wind company asking permission to sleep in my home, that's data, but we don't have any, I'm not presenting any noise level data or...
So would it be fair to say that there were not, although there is narrative and personal information, there's not necessarily scientific or technical principles that were employed?
That would be fair to say.
Okay. Do you believe that your testimony will be helpful in assisting the board in understanding the facts of this case?
Yes.
Okay. What specifically are you asking to be determined an expert in?
I specifically would like to be considered as an expert for a proper setback between a wind turbine and a non-participating homeowner, specifically.
Is there anything that I have asked you, or I have not asked you, that you would like the board to consider with regard only to whether or not you're to be considered an expert?
Yes, there is one thing. I would hope that this board would consider me as an expert because of my firsthand experience living near wind turbines with my family in a home in a wind farm.
Well, okay.
That's my expertise. I have a very unique situation which I can go into.
I understand, and I know that you intend to, but is that all that you would like them to consider?
Yeah, yes,
In
I
addition?
think that's fair. That's the main thing.
I don't know if this will make you happy or not, but I think what our opinion is that you are an expert in your field, in surveying and maybe engineering, but probably not in what you're testifying to. That's our opinion. So I think we're going to limit it to 10 minutes.
For the record, I would like to say that you may not find anyone else in my predicament that I was put in. And if you limit my testimony, I believe that you are shortchanging the rights of citizens to be heard, to appeal to this board, to get all of the information. I'd like that to be put on the record.
Mr. Harkey, your 10 minutes is going to start in just a moment.
Okay.
Before we do that, I know you said that you had some exhibits that do you want them handed out now?
Yeah, I can just take one, each they're stapled together.
Okay.
Just grab one
Okay.
and can send it down the line.
Do you want to be marked as a neutral witness, an opponent, or a proponent?
I think we're marked down as an opponent.
An objector?
I'm objecting to the project.
Okay, so can we call it Objectors Exhibit 1?
This is the full submittal. It's 46 pages.
We'll just take a copy of what you provided to the board, that way it can become part of the record.
Their pieces are not the entire packet.
Okay, that's fine.
This is every single slide.
And you can email it after the fact if you like.
Of course.
But if you want to go ahead, if you need to indicate to Mr. Mitchell.
Can I have a clicker?
Do you have one?
Sorry, I didn't ask for that earlier.
That's all right.
I didn't think about that. Okay.
Thank you. Forward and back. All right. Go ahead, Mr. Harkey, as soon as you get back to your microphone.
Good evening. Thank you for all the hard work you're doing to help understand this situation. I think we pretty much covered all this in this slide here. This is my family in 2012. That's me, or my daughter Sophia. That's me, and that's my wife Jess, and that's my son Philip. To start out with, I want to ask a question here, and we're going to talk about this. Is it fair to compare the existing McLean County wind turbines to proposed turbines? And have you spoken with anyone who lives nearby a 500-foot tall turbine? So in Twin Groves, I think these are the biggest wind turbines in your county. These are 400-foot tall to the tips of blades, and they have about a 1 acre sweep area. My wife and I visited this wind farm before the turbines were built next to our home. We parked on the end of the driveway. We were there for 20 minutes, and I told my wife, see, we have nothing to worry about. And we were supportive of the project that came to our house. This is a picture of a 495-foot tall wind turbine. This is my house in Vermilion County. This turbine is 1,665 feet away from and behind my house. The turbines in my county are 495 feet tall to the tips of blades, and that's a 2 acre blade sweep area. And that's twice as big as your current biggest wind turbine sweep area in your county. Let's go the right way. The third nearest wind turbine near our home, that's what it looks like, 3,147 feet away. So here's a close-up of my house. My dog was in the garage, my son Philip's bedroom, my daughter's bedroom, and my wife and I's bedroom below hers. And behind our house, at this angle, that's the closest wind turbine that's 1,665 feet away. This is a look from our backyard. You can see our playground here. That's what Invenergy's closest wind turbine looks like, 1,665 feet away. And then third closest, 3,147 feet away. These wind turbines caused us severe sleep deprivation, and they caused us to leave our home. This is the view from my front yard. Right here, this is the corner of the sidewalk nearest to my bedroom window. That closest wind turbine that you see there is 2,225 feet away. And the fourth closest turbine from my house is there in the distance, and that's 3,454 feet away. On January 22nd, 2013, almost to the day here, that we're right at 5 years. At 1:22 in the morning, I wrote an email to a gentleman named Marlon, who is the Invenergy's construction manager. I said, the turbines are unbearable tonight, we need to talk. I've been awake for 45 minutes praying for a wind direction to change to quiet the machine noise. This is a picture of my daughter, Sophia, in July 2013. This is 11 o'clock at night. We could hear wind turbines inside of her house, and she was not sleeping. And I went to her room to get her to settle down and tell her that we were working on the problem. And she said that she had an idea. She ran to her toy box and she pulled out these headphones. These are Hello Kitty headphones, and she asked me if she could wear these to bed so she could sleep. It didn't work very good, but I think it made her feel better. And the next time Invenergy is up here with their acquisitions or selling you guys a wind project, I want this board to ask them a question for my daughter. Ask them if they're going to provide headphones for all the kids to be able to sleep in their own beds at night. This is her bedroom window, and that's the wind turbine about 1,700 feet away from her window. And as that thing turns, it fills up her entire window. These are the beds in our living room. In the fall of 2013, I kept finding my kids out in the living room, and they'd moved to the couch and the sofa. And I went out there one night, and it was quieter in the living room. So my wife and I took our mattress, we put it on the floor, and for the rest of that week, we slept on the floor on our mattress, and the kids were on the couch and recliner. But then the weekend, we went up to the bedrooms, broke down all the beds, carried them downstairs. And this is how we lived in our house for the last about 2.5 months. And I would have people over, and they'd walk in our house, and they would say, what in the hell is going on here? And we have a house with no beds in the bedrooms. And in the past, I've testified to that this living situation is very hard on our marriage. Here's a wind turbine distance map. It's in your handout. It just shows the orientation of these turbines, how far away they are from my house. If I was to choose, I would choose to have this turbine that's 2,225 feet away. I would choose that to be the one that was tore down because we were downwind, and I think most of the rumbling and thumping noise we had in our house was from us being downwind of that wind turbine. There were 2 nights when Invenergy shut down all 4 of these wind turbines so we could sleep. On 51 nights, they either shut off 1 or 2 or 3, and on 2 nights, all 4 of these were shut down. I want you to look at these distances. If I had to have a turbine shut down 3,454 feet from my home, that's a really long way to just be able to sleep in my house. I think that was a severe encroachment. The reason why this was happening, I believe, is that the wind turbines next to my home are the largest ones to ever be built in all of Illinois and Indiana, and that's what they're planning for your community. For us, it was only about the noise. You know, noise is 3-dimensional. We talked about it was the frequency of it. In our case, we had thumping and rumbling noise is what kept us awake. We have the magnitude. You know, these things aren't awfully loud. The problem is number 3, the noise duration. It was coming and going and seemed like it was always there, and we could never get used to it. And that's what caused us to be sleep deprived, is because it was off and on all the time. Steve Ambrose wrote me a letter once, and he was instructing me that as soon as you get above 45 dBA, there's widespread complaints. And this is a chart that I added to his information here. I want to give credit to Steve Ambrose, who creates this chart. All these black dots are the 1970s EPA study stuff. And you can see that the widespread complaints started at 33.5 dBA. And at my house, the noise measurement was at 45 dBA, and that's just up here off the charts where it says strong appeals to stop the noise. In the application when Invenergy applied for the project, they said the loudest predicted turbine is at 45 dBA. I think they said something similar to here. Oh, this button stuck. Let me back this up. They said the loudest turbine was going to be 45, and then it says the majority of locations are going to experience less than 40. Less than 40, this level is sufficiently low to minimize or eliminate potential for sleep interference. I gave you guys this page because this is from Invenergy's California Ridge Wind Energy Project, and this is Invenergy's engineer who says less than 40 will protect sleep. And this county's application is way above 40. I'm going to skip through some of these for the sake of time. Invenergy also hired an acoustician named Paul Schomer. He says keep it below 39 decibels. Dr. Schomer did the noise study at my house with Michael Hankard, who was Invenergy's expert in this county. In Livingston County, Invenergy's project had an acoustician come in, and they said it was going to be safe up to 3,250 feet from turbines. There were still 2 houses unprotected. And this is what, I know I'm getting low on time, and I'll skip through some of this information here. And I want to point out that when Invenergy came to my county, in Vermilion County, we have them on the record lying to my county board. I feel as though that they're probably lying to you. I want you to hold them accountable. If there are any, and I want them to sign one little piece of paper, and it's going to say this. This is my last sentence. I want you to have Invenergy sign a piece of paper that says, our wind turbines will not cause children to be sleep deprived or have sleep disturbance inside the homes of their parents' houses, and if it does, Invenergy will purchase their house. They tried to keep us quiet for a long time by turning off turbines so we could sleep. When my wife and I went public, they quit doing that, and we lost the use of our home, even though we asked permission to be able to stay and use our home for its intended purpose.
Your 10 minutes is up.
Thank you for your patience and the extra 30 seconds. I appreciate it.
That's all right.
Questions from the board?
So, and I didn't get this clarified in your discussion there. You do not live in the house any longer? Is that what I understand?
For the sake of time, I didn't have enough time to talk about that. My wife and I abandoned our home in December of 2013, just a few days before Christmas of 2013.
Okay, elaborate on abandoned.
Okay, we packed up our beds and clothing and stuff. We left our home and we moved into a double-wide trailer 8 miles away as a temporary solution so our children could continue going to the same school.
And so is your house on the market, or what are you doing with the house now?
We put our house up for sale in early 2014. It was for sale all of 2014, all of 2015, and in September of 2016, we sold it. We finally sold our house and 3 years later after leaving it.
Thank you.
So you had someone come out and test the decibels at
Yes.
your house, and what were their findings?
Their findings that it was a hair below the maximum noise limit allowed, the numerical noise limit allowed by the Illinois Pollution Control Board maximum noise limits.
And what number was that? How many decibels?
It's approximately 46 or so decibels, within half a decibel, probably 46 dBA if you want to put it into A-weighted.
Was that for how long was it, just a hair below 46? Was this like all the time, or was it during the nighttime? Was it during?
I don't know.
How did they measure it? You were around there.
Invenergy hired Michael Hankard and Dr. Schomer to do a sound study. The sound study went for 4 months. They set the microphones at distances which were relative to the distance from where my house was relative to the turbines. And in theory, their noise measurement was to the location where my house was. And I believe that their findings was that at my house, the noise level would have been at the maximum allowable from the IPCB, and I need to add something. When they did the measurements, they did them as in a position that would measure what the noise would be like at my house. However, the IPCB rules say that that maximum noise limit is supposed to be measured at the property line. And in our case, they did not follow the IPCB protocol. They did not measure at the property line. They were measuring in a place that was similar to how my house was oriented.
Okay. Did you submit that as part of your testimony, that study?
That study is available to the public on the McLean County website, the entire study. And if you would like, I can give you a copy of the entire thing. And I would be able to provide that to your ZBA.
Yeah, we all have it, trust me. We can all give it to you.
Both attorneys just told me that they're going to both give it to you, if you want that. While that study was going on by Michael Hankard and Dr. Schomer, I also had a noise study done at the same time to keep them honest. We have not shared the results of that with anyone.
Mr. Harkey, you have to wait until there's a question pending, okay?
He asked me what noise studies were done. I just told him there was 2. One was Invenergy's and one was mine.
Okay, and that I was going to ask if you had a noise study done, so you
Yes.
answered my question.
Yes.
But you have not shared the
No, I have
results of
not.
that. And I assume that's for litigation reasons?
Yes.
Okay.
We're reserving our rights to litigate this further.
Unless I misunderstood you, others, you had a comment that you weren't allowed to enter your house? Was that
No, I said we were not allowed to sleep in our home. The 51 times when we would text or email, they would shut down various wind turbines. My summary of that is, in the end, when they quit turning off turbines, I was very embarrassed and ashamed that we've been asking Invenergy to be able to sleep in our own home. You know, we would email them and say, turbine 57 is very noisy, it's rumbling, and we can hear it inside of our house, and none of us can sleep. Will you please turn off number 57 so we can finally sleep? And they would, and they did that 51 times. What's unique about my situation is that nowhere in all of North America have we ever known or heard of any wind company voluntarily turning off wind turbines on the request of citizens. The only shutdowns have been from court order or judgments so far.
How many wind towers are in the project where you live?
134.
Were there other similar complaints with other neighbors?
Yes. Would you like me to elaborate on that? I'm going to say that
hearsay, so I don't think we can do that.
In McLean County, there were 5 different households who had approached the county board and pled during public comments about noise issues at their homes, me included. I am aware of 21 families with noise problems inside their house that had to do with sleep issues. That I'm aware of 21 families.
Has Invenergy offered to try to do any mitigation as
Yes.
far as insulating or any of those type of things to help your house out?
During the nighttime shutdowns, I was supposed to go find contractors that would come and soundproof or insulate my home to make it not so noisy inside my house. And I was having a lot of trouble. I couldn't find a contractor willing to take on that type of a project. Invenergy called in 2 other contractors. Both of them are like home improvement companies from Champaign-Urbana area. And one of them showed up and gave a price to insulate our home, but not talking about soundproofing, just to insulate the house. He submitted his proposal to my wife and I, and Invenergy the next day contacted that company they had sent in to ask them for a copy of it. The dollar amount was $58,000 on the proposal for insulation of my house. Invenergy contacted my attorney and offered $58,000 towards insulation. We did not entertain their offer. Instead, we asked if they would show us any other home anywhere else ever that had been soundproofed against wind turbine rumbling, thumping, low frequency noise, and we have yet to hear back from Invenergy. They have not responded to our question about providing us an example of where this has ever been done or even possible anywhere else. So we did not take the $58,000 they offered us. We are still, I guess, at a standstill with our discussions with Invenergy since then.
The predominant wind directions that affected your house the most, did you request those particular turbines upwind or downwind? And did that have an effect? If they're downwind, then the sound has got a, we heard that it has to go against the wind to get to the house. So did that have an effect?
I can explain that. Daryl, can you get that started up again? I'm going to go to one of the pictures to make it easier. Let me see if I go the correct way. And I'm going to find it. Okay. The prominent wind direction heading to my house is from the southwest to the northeast. That is the predominant wind direction. Most of the time we would be downwind or in the exhaust of this particular wind turbine, and that turbine number was 75. Does that answer your question about being downwind?
So if they shut off turbine number 75, was that sufficient to lower the noise levels?
It lowered the noise level some, and I'm going to say it was about a split even. Half the time they turned off turbines, it would be either 57 or 75, about, let's say 25% of the time 57 only, about 25% of the time number 75 only. About the other 25% of the time was both of them shut down. These closest turbines, both of them were shut down so we could sleep. Because this noise, it'd be like being upwind or downwind from a guy running his subwoofer. And in one instance, he's only 1,600 feet away, and the other instance, he's almost half mile away. You kind of get the same amount of effect from either wind turbine, even though you're closer to the one that's downwind of you.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any measurement information to show how many decibels or anything like that were in your house or anyone's close?
Inside my house, we have a lot of noise measurement levels inside and
None
outside
that
our
you've
house.
shared with us?
No.
Okay. All right.
If I,
Because you're in
if
a,
you voted
you're in a
no-
suit, because you're in a suit with Invenergy?
we have not filed a lawsuit, but we're reserving our rights for litigation.
Okay.
And, you know, if I felt like it would even make a difference, and this board would use my information to help protect the citizens, I would probably share that.
You're here now, right, to do that?
I would have to check my contractual obligations with the acquisition that recorded all that information to see if he would also agree to give it up, because we've taken measures to protect that data that both of us will have to sign off on allowing that to be released due to a lot of reasons.
You understand our need for objective information?
I do.
Okay.
Painfully so, I understand. And I hope that you can understand my predicament that we're in also. This is kind of like that jump in front of a train, you know, type of situation.
You don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but.
I'll answer any questions that you have.
No.
I will. I'm an open book.